Welcome.
We ain't afraid of no ghosts.
This is your number one podcast for ghoulies and ghosties and long-legged beasties. Bringing you everything you need to know about things that go bump in the night and interviewing the personalities behind them. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Now, here are your hosts, your ghost hosts, Scott and Julie.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Paranormal Project. Good afternoon, Julie. How are you?
I'm good, Scott. How are you? The sun is shining.
At least at your house. No, it is not shining here. I'm getting my 15 minutes here while I'm on the show. So welcome to New England. You know, we are the Paranormal Project. Our guest today is the least paranormal person I know. However, she is one of the coolest psychic mediums. I've had the pleasure of working with Julie. She owns the MontClair Psychic School. I was fortunate enough to be able to study with her, and she's got a fantastic story and a fantastic school. And you remember we had Liam on the show a while back, psychic medium Liam Galvin, who I got to know through Lee, and he studied with her as well. So I knew she'd be a great way to close out the season. And those of you, if you weren't listening last week or you don't know, this is our last live show of the year. Our new season begins in September. Julie and I are taking the summer off. She's going to be cruising Alaska and doing all kinds of fun things, and I'll be in Boston. But anyway, that's how it goes.
Many people travel to Boston, Scott. It's a lovely place we live in.
They do. Anyway, I would really love to welcome our guest, Lee VanZyl, to the show. Hi, Lee. How are you?
Good. Hi, Julie. Hi, Scott. Thanks for having me.
It is so nice to have you. Lee, can you tell everyone?
Good to see you.
You too.
Can you tell everyone how did this happen for you? Because I know you and I have talked a bit about you're from South Africa, and
I'm from South Africa. I immigrated, and I was a lawyer, actually, very, very unspiritual. I was a mob lawyer, so I was everything you hate about lawyers. I embraced everything of that sort. And then what happened with me, my daughter, as soon as she started speaking at around 2 years old, she started speaking, and she started speaking to unseen people. She called them her spookies. And it was like really unnerving. She was having these full-on conversations. There was a lot of them. She would draw pictures of them. She's very artistic. And it really scared the hell out of me, actually. All of us were literally terrified. And I didn't know what to do with her. And then we moved. We actually were in Massachusetts, and we bought a place in the woods in Douglas. You're probably familiar with it.
Yeah, a
little
little
closer to Providence. Brand new house, brand spanking new. So I said to the family, well, look, once we move, it'll probably be the end of Jordan's spookies. And the first day we moved into this house, we had this long driveway. I was so excited with the sidewalk chalk for the kid. Put her out there, and she starts drawing what looked like Casper and the Friendly Ghosts. So I'm like, Jordan, like, what are you drawing? She says, oh, it's the spookies. So I said, but they stayed at the apartment, right? She says, no, we all moved together. So I had to deal with this child. I didn't know what to do, and this was an ongoing thing. But she became the odd kid. So when we moved to New Jersey, she was due to start school, and she was really having problems with kids her own age because she was speaking to her friends, but also the friends that no one else could see. And she started to be bullied, and I found her a place here in New Jersey that had a children's group. They would teach them shamanism, psychic development, and she absolutely loved it. And while I was waiting for her, I take on a Saturday, while I was waiting for her, I saw this random ad, advanced mediumship class with an Australian medium. And it just caught my eye. So I thought, well, I'm not advanced. I'm not even a medium. And I spoke to the woman. I said, do you think I could take the class? And she said, yes. And I took that class. It was a 3-day class. And it was, oh my God, I could not believe that the information I brought through people could recognize. But my teacher was one of those old timers. There was no new agey woo-woo stuff. She never mentioned a word about the chakras or anything. It was just speak to them, have this conversation. So it was more of a non-woo-woo kind of a mediumship class. So I was really surprised by this. And she then called me a week later from Australia and said, "Oh, I've arranged for you to start running a circle at this place." I'm like, "What?" All I did was a random class. Something inside me, just this overwhelming draw, do this. And I started sitting with all these mediums. And the next thing, people were asking me to teach. I started teaching in New York, New Jersey. The place closed down. All I wanted was a spirit circle, just a location. To sit once a week with some mediums, and it just seemed to naturally evolve into a school. It just expanded, and then I started to really explore spirituality, and I became a healer, and I really started to just develop this absolute passion for spirit communication. And my guides told me, "We're going to support you on this journey, but you can develop people quickly. Do not rip people off, and we'll support you. But I know that people, all of us are capable of being mediums. We all have this natural ability to speak to the spirit world." So that's what I'm about. I absolutely love holding people's hands, taking them on the journey, and just watching their mediumship flourish, and to be able to just share this gift for everyone. I enjoy seeing that. I enjoy the former students doing really well, becoming teachers in their own right. So this is my passion. I found my life purpose, and I'm no longer a lawyer.
Have you ever thought of adding to your class list how to teach this? Because, the more readings I do, the more people I have reaching out to me saying, "What do I do? I don't know. Something's going on with me." And what I usually tell them is, "Here's Lee's address, her email address, and here's her phone number, and you should call her because that's what you do." But it would really be wonderful to have a group of people. I'm not saying we're all going to open up schools, but it would be nice to be able to know what to say to someone and how to help someone control some of these gifts that they have. Is that something you do, or have you thought of that?
Sometimes, with the physical location, when I have some students who are sitting with me and they just show this potential, I will have them start teaching with me. You can't, obviously, to teach, you have to understand this.
Correct.
Right? So the way I teach nowadays, I started teaching before I had any business teaching, but I was blessed to have a team of teaching guides who really knew how to open up stuff for the spirit world. It's like I was teaching and working as a medium, but I had to play catch up to everything that was going on, in my school and in the circle. So I had to play catch up. So I had a limited knowledge, but I just had these guides. But, at this point in time, after many years, I've been doing this for 17 years, I really understand mediumship now. And I feel it's something very natural. I don't feel like we need to add all this woo-woo stuff, rules about things. I feel we can be flexible with the spirit. But if you have an understanding of it, it's about sharing the journey, sharing the technique. So I'm happy to teach people how to teach, but to teach people, we've got to have people to teach, right?
That's
yeah.
10 times. That's what you put. It's true.
And the biggest thing, that I think confounded me the most on my mediumship journey. I wish teachers hadn't held information back. I believe in sharing knowledge. Share everything you know. Because I don't like teachings where they hold little key bits of information back so you can take another class. Give people all the information. Teach them. When you say, "Scott, this conversation with the spirit world," speak to them, people would say. And it's like, how? How do you speak to them? No one would ever tell me that, So with time, eventually, you just talk to them. These are a list of questions you can start working with. develop that communication, and then you go. So, I feel firstly, become a medium, really understand it, and then you can teach. But I feel people, if they start their mediumship, let's say with a basic foundational course, and they start their own circle, whether it's at home or in a location, you can actually lead a group, because that's what I did. While you are developing together as a group, you can develop your mediumship, and that will naturally unfold all your teaching skills as well.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Does your daughter work with you?
No, she wants to have nothing to do with it.
Julie will tell you a story about that.
My daughter is a very, very gifted, intuitive psychic, but does not want to have anything to do with it. But I truly believe she uses her gift in her job. She is a clinical social worker dealing with mental illness, and she's so very good at it. And I really think that she uses that without knowing, she uses that to get through to her clients.
Absolutely. My son's also a medium. He's a state trooper here in New Jersey. And he's very good at it. He's actually really good with spirit rescue work, going into haunted houses and that. Excellent at that. But none of them have ever wanted to do this. I've really got to twist his arm and pay him a lot of money to work with me. Otherwise, they won't.
But, like Julie, you and I have talked about this, right?
Well, he'll be back. We'll give him a moment.
Am I not there? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay, now we can start over.
I didn't even realize I was gone. I think I had an NDE and nobody told me. There was no. But Julie and I have talked about this, because Julie has always said, I'm a psychic empath. And I thought, well, what the heck is that? But I really think, and this, push comes to shove, you do it. You can do it. You have done it. Do you know what I mean?
I did take a full day. I did take training, and I was very, very good at it. At the end of the day, I was reading a woman who, she had said to me she's never had a reading like that before. She was in tears. It just came very naturally to me, but it's not my path. I really love doing paranormal investigating. Yeah. And I do use my gift while I'm investigating to get a feel for what's going on. But I just don't feel that it is my path to do that. We all have a different path.
Absolutely.
I understand you don't do investigating.
No, I don't do investigating, because I feel if I need to go into someone's location, they already know they're haunted. So I'm going there to clear it out.
Okay. So, and I'm looking for the evidence, and I want to speak to the spirit. I want to go in there and speak to spirit and say, look at what I have. Look, you have
No, I'm not interested in the gadgets, because they already know they've got trouble.
Okay.
So
and that's
I go in for the direct communication with them, and let's cross them over. So for the energetic clearing.
Right.
Yeah. So I'd love to ask you a question on that note, Lee. And this is something Julie and I, we deal with when we go on investigations. We were at a place in Ohio, and I walk in and I'm oblivious to it. I don't feel the things like she does. She feels the stuff. And she says, I don't think you should go in there. I don't think we should be in there. There's something not good in there. And I'm walking in like Mickey the Dunce. Well, here we go. It is completely oblivious, because I don't know if it's because I'm shut off in those situations, or if it's just, that's just not how it is for me.
I'm very sensitive to energy, and I physically feel energy. That's the empathic part of it. If it is a negative energy, I can tell you if it is human negativity, which, you know what? Listen, some people are turds in life, they're turds in death too. Or if it is non-human, I can tell you right off if it's non-human, because I get physically sick from non-human. It attacks my spine and goes into my stomach, which is something that, we find happens a lot with a demonologist. Not that I have never studied demonology. Again, that's not something I'm interested in. But I can feel if it is safe for the team to work in that environment.
Well, as far as going into locations, I'm very strict with my boundaries, my protections. So when I'm not doing any spiritual work, I am so shut tight. So I can walk into a room and not connect to anything. But it's once I open up, that I will then discern.
Right.
But I'm very picky with the kind of rescue work that I do nowadays. I will work with earthbound spirits. I will work with a dark force entity, but not demonic. I've had a run-in, that I do not want to experience this. I've got a limit. I've got a limit to what I will work with.
And you need to be trained in that. Honestly, it just definitely years and years of training. I ran into the demonic once and stepped back, said, no, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no training in this, and we need to call someone who can take care of this.
When I started my mediumship, she also opened me up to rescue mediumship. I had my first experience with a suicide who had not crossed over. So I had a parallel mediumship career, evidentiary mediumship, but also spirit rescue mediumship. And it's very difficult to maintain that kind of balance because the ones are very high vibration, the rescue mediumship's the lower vibration. It's very difficult to deal with that. But I do know that you have to know your limits. You have to know when to walk out.
Absolutely.
Some of these things, it's got to be done, under God with a priest, some exorcist who's like really, those people who work with that kind of energy, that's their specialty. That's all they do. That's all they do. So you've got to be very careful. Very careful. Yeah.
And I saw, I don't know if it was yesterday or over the weekend, this is something Julie and I have always said we wanted to do, was the table tipping.
Oh, yes.
She does table tipping. You did that at was that at your, at the school?
Oh, yeah, we do it all the time. All the time.
How is that compared to, say, a Ouija board?
Good question. Sometimes it is, it's Ouija board and table tipping are actually both forms of physical mediumship. Physical mediumship's the physical manifestation of spirit. So if I were to open up a Ouija session, I'd do a series of tests to see what kind of an energy I have. Do I know this person really? Like if it says it's my dad, well, I'm going to ask a few questions and see if I can get clarification or proof that it is in fact my father. So it should be able to easily spell the energy. Usually when you've got something negative on a Ouija board, you can usually sense it pretty quickly in that there'll be a lot of cursing. That'll move the letters or the numbers away, or something might go flying. Generally, I find working with the Ouija, as much prayers and protection that you put in place, I've found that we are more apt to get something negative coming in on a Ouija board. That's in my experience.
Versus table tipping.
Yeah, the table tipping, what we do is usually part of our trance mediumship circle. So we are working with the guides, which is a very, very high vibration. We also work with loved ones on the table as well, but we can communicate, so they can spell, for example, or give us answers as to this is a father, and they can spell stuff, so we can constantly question it and get answers, So we use it for the trance mediumship guides as well as loved ones. So we don't really use it for psychic information. Will I get this job? A little bit different, but I've actually had table tipping circles where I've had one or two people that, I see they become very uncomfortable in the circle. These have been when we were doing them publicly. I don't do them publicly anymore. And they start sweating and they have to leave. And I always know that's a sign that there's something with their energy that's not conducive to the high energy of what we are working with. So if I do sense anyone at the table and something feels negative to me, I shut it down immediately. Just no questions asked, even if it's like 5 minutes. But for the most part, I would say I very, very rarely sense or have any negative experiences with the table. For the most part, when we're working with the guides and the table, you know, they are doing healing. They will go to you for healing purposes. The table will go against you and infuse healing energy into you. But when we work with the guides, you know, it's a different kind of energy. It's very, very gentle, and it's very controlled movement, very, very controlled. I've had one experience where someone, unbeknown to me, was working with ET energy, and the table went crazy. It was really bad. It was just going crazy. It was almost violent kind of energy. And we canceled that one immediately. So, but like I say, you know, it's very, very rare that on the table I feel anything.
And by ET, you mean extraterrestrial?
Yeah, I was just going to say, can you expand on that a little bit? I mean, that's very interesting.
Yeah, working with extraterrestrial beings, you know, I don't really do that at all.
Okay.
I don't really enjoy the energy too much. So we've had a really negative experience with that kind of energy. So I like guides, I like dead people, and that's about, I'm vanilla, I guess.
By our standards, I guess.
Gray here.
I am curious though, and I don't know if you can answer this, but if someone were to connect with an extraterrestrial energy, is it a deceased extraterrestrial, or do you think you're communicating telepathically with extraterrestrials that are wherever they are?
No, I believe it will be telepathic communication.
Wow. I find that fascinating. I've never even heard of that before.
Yeah.
I know. It's very interesting. Although if you watch Skinwalker Ranch, I honestly really questioned a lot. And I have been watching what's been happening on Skinwalker Ranch, and it's amazing. It really is. The different different energies and opening different pathways in and out of our world is just what they think that they're finding. It's just crazy.
Yeah, you know, I'm not too sure. I guess, you know, I haven't gone in and done any in-depth study on working with these kinds of energies.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, where I've worked with it has actually been in the field of spirit rescue work, where people have picked up problems, you know, where they got this intrusive energy with them and they're not going anywhere because they don't believe in Earth's free will system. So I haven't had very positive experiences with it. I've had no desire to channel them or anything like that. So like I said, I'm vanilla.
I'm wondering if these people are experiencers. And so that's why they have that communication, or able to have that communication.
I don't know. You know, I think one's got to be careful nowadays, you know. Everything like on TikTok and everywhere, everyone's getting all the education on the internet, right? Without any understanding of what's going on. They are inviting these beings in, and the beings are going, oh, well, you're part of a select group. We are going to share the special sacred information for you. And then they pick up problems, you know, in their lives energetically. Because the way they get in with people who are untrained and don't understand this is through the ego. You are special. We are working with you. No one ever thinks like, I'm Joe Schmo from Jersey. You're in Clifton, New Jersey. Why the hell do you want to give all this information to me?
Exactly.
And they open a door to something. So I feel, you know, I don't need to do that. So people, I think, you know, I would like them to be a little bit more careful with this kind of stuff. Yeah. But I think with nowadays, you know, everyone's about, oh, you know, this is amazing, you know, so.
It's the shock factor too for a lot of people.
Yeah. I think with all of this stuff, you know, we don't want to do all this work from a vibration of fear, but you need to use your common sense as well.
Right.
So sometimes common sense is missing though.
I was just going to say, sometimes it's lacking, Lee. You know, we know this for a fact.
You know, when you do this kind of work, whether it be mediumship or whatever, it's okay to question things. questioning is healthy. You know, you can't just accept everything blindly, even with spirit communication, like Scott, like you and I do, right? I mean, you've got to provide evidence. You can't just, oh, I've got your grandmother over here and this is what she says. Well, how do I know it's your grandmother? You know, so it's health, questioning things is very healthy.
I've had that in a reading too. Okay. It starts out kind of general and then you get a little more specific as you go. I've got a man here. Oh my God, that's my husband. Okay, well, no, a man could be any man. You don't know if it's your husband. But thanks for letting me know that your husband died. Because now that's in my head.
Yeah.
It's funny. Do you have any suggestions when doing table tipping, how to properly close out? Is there a way to properly close it out? Like when you shut it down, you say, "Oh, I shut it down right away."
Oh. With us, firstly, they're great timekeepers. So our team know that we will do table tipping from 9 p.m. to 9:30. When that clock hits 9:30, even though we might not be looking at it, it's almost as if someone has gotten a chainsaw and cut the legs of the table off, because it just stops. So they keep time and they obey rules. But whenever, the thing is, it can take a bit of time to build up the energy on the table. The first group I started, we sat for 6 weeks, every week, just with our hands on the table, building the energy before we even got movement. The key is to have a group that is harmonious, with harmonious, compatible energy, very, very positive. If you have people who are fearful, paranoid, on the negative side, give them the boot. You don't want to be sitting with people like that, because it's the group energy that will provide the energy to the spirit world to move the table. I don't do a lot, I do our prayer. We ask for the guides to be present. We're only working with the highest vibration, so I'm not too concerned. And when we're at the end, usually they will end it for us. The table will stop and that's what happened last night. Oh, it must be 9:30. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Spirit. Bye-bye. We give the table a kiss and that's that. We're done.
And that's it.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating. Now, when I studied with you, we scratched the surface on trance a little bit. I don't think I had enough of it to really kind of, get into it. But I find that fascinating too. Do you have any, or is it the same thing in terms of who you're allowing in, or is there some fear element to that, allowing them to come through you?
I think actually with the course, I'm actually having them do trance almost from the start now in that course that you did, because I find it really helps you evidentiary mediumship. This thing of when we say trance mediumship, there's a misunderstanding about what it is, because when you say I'm allowing spirit to come and speak through me, and there can be change, overshadowment, possibly voice change coming in, people automatically think of possession, right? And this creates fear. I know that created fear in me when I first started to develop it. It was, oh my God, I'm going to be possessed now. But actually, with understanding, you're bringing spirit very close. And there's a blending of the minds. They infuse their thoughts in the medium's mind. So the development problem is like, this is the medium. Their mind's always to the foreground, right? So spirit's going to come in. Let me see. God, I can't do it. This is the medium. No, that's the medium. That's the medium. Spirit's got to move forward, so that there's more of spirit and less of the medium's mind. And they will it allows the blending of the minds and allowing the medium to speak the thoughts of spirit. You can do direct mediumship where you can bring through your own loved one. But theoretically, that should be just a direct conversation. What's interesting, though, I don't know any trance mediums who actually do direct communication readings. I wondered, why is that?
That is interesting.
They just bring through guides all the time.
Oh, so in other words, they speak to the guide. It's in other words, you have another middle person.
They're inclined to do more, when they do the trance demonstrations, to allow the guides to speak through them, right? And make no mistake, we do that in the circle as well. And the messages that come through trance mediumship are just beautiful. They are healing. They provoke thought. They are inspirational. We learn so much about spirit, about people, about everything. There's no topic off limits when it comes to the guides. So if we can allow the guides to speak through us, if I was sitting with you, Julie, and I'm a trance medium, then surely I could bring your mother through directly, correct?
Yes.
She wouldn't need to really provide evidence. It would be like, Julie, I'm your mom, and just have a conversation with you in such a personal way that you'll be able to respond like a live conversation. So it's interesting that for the most part in trance mediumship, mediums are not offering the direct communication reading. So we're putting a lot of focus into the training of that. I do them, with people I might trust just to practice this, but I'm not ready to put it out there. But also, I feel the public are also not educated enough to maybe to receive that kind of reading. But I feel it's a powerful form of mediumship, if only just for us when we sit here and develop it, to be able to experience that energy and to receive those messages for ourselves, right? But also working with the trance mediumship really enhances your connection to spirit in your mental mediumship. So as a medium, I feel it's like really a great thing if you are able to sit for trance as well. Maybe not do trance mediumship, in your professional capacity, but as something that really aids you in your own mediumship. The closeness of spirit, I feel it really enhances that.
Do you and I'm going to tell you why I'm asking this, but do you think that when you're in that spot, you feel before I do a reading and I sit and I'm preparing for a reading, I always ask them to come behind me, stand behind me, and then share the space with me. I don't ask them to get inside me, but they share the space with me. And I can tell whether it's a man or a woman, if they're older, if they're younger. I can almost even tell if their legs are heavy, what kind of shoes they wear. It's kind of a weird thing. But I don't believe that's trance. I don't believe that I'm in that trance mode. I don't take on their voice. Nothing changes. It's just I'm able to understand who they are because they're nice and close.
So that would be more mental mediumship.
Right.
Where you probably experience trance, and it's a spontaneous trance, when you've got this link to someone and suddenly you start to switch over into the first person. That's the power of trance. But I think mental mediums can get into that trance state during a reading spontaneously.
And would they know it? I've had people.
Scott, you know that.
You would know if you slipped into it, I mean.
The first time it happened to me, I was doing a reading for someone who'd lost his son to suicide. And I was just giving evidence like I usually would. And suddenly he was just speaking in the first person, my voice. In the first person, speaking to his mom, and she was answering, and they were having a conversation. And didn't last for long, but it was enough to know, oh my God, this is something else. That's the trance state. So that can slip in through mental mediumship with me without having taken one day of trance training, right? They're just able to come in and you allow that process.
I know I've had people say to me, wow, the way you said that facial expression you made, or that way you laughed, or that, but I never felt like I slipped into a first person.
The mannerisms or the words, it's spontaneous. It can go in and out very quickly. So I feel, that you've probably experienced spontaneous trance in your readings.
But it's probably been so quick that you don't even realize.
But that's okay, because in that moment in time, that's very powerful. It's very powerful.
Right.
I don't look upon my trance mediumship development as something that I necessarily want to put out to the public and charge them for.
Right.
Do it for me. And I just do it because I just love being in that energy, in the presence of those guides.
Do you do that just in person, or do you have a trance class that you do online?
I do it in person. I was doing it online. I'll probably start up an online one later this year. I'll probably do a series. Just a weekly thing, on Zoom where we can get people into trance. So I definitely do want to do that. But it was silly not to make the opportunity of being able to sit in person again.
Of course, and now that we can. Lee, we have a couple of questions I just want to put here. Anton says, Lee said everyone has the ability to be a medium. How to identify it, and any suggestions on developing the ability? So how would someone know necessarily?
Okay, so you would, if you are able to possibly hear voices, hear things, that would be your clairaudience. That's got to be a dead person speaking to you, because to hear something, someone's got to speak. So maybe you do hear sounds, right? But also just a discernment. So you might be someone who's very sensitive, feeling differences in energy, which mean that you are very open and sensitive, or almost feeling the presence. Or you might be someone who might even perceive the spirit world, either objectively with your eyes or inside your mind. Most people who are untrained will actually see spirit objectively with their eyes. And when they develop it, it becomes internal. So for a lot of people are naturally mediumistic. They're fully aware of the fact that they can discern the spirit world. So they know that's a no-brainer. But I feel, if you've never done a day of mediumship in your life before, you've had no interest, but you feel this desire to develop it, all it takes is a thought to the spirit world. I would like to develop my mediumship. Would you please work with me? Spirit will meet you. And then the hard work starts, actually. So what you want to do is sit with regularity. One of the key ways to start your journey before even taking a class is to learn how to meditate. Because you need to learn to be able to go quiet. Because it is within the silence and the quietness that the spirit world communicates with us. So that's a key thing over there. And something, that doesn't get spoken about enough is self-healing. I feel the self-healing journey is on a par of importance with your mediumship development journey, because it is holding on to your own stuff that you need healed, all your own stuff. When you connect mediumistically, all your stuff comes up, right, Scott? All your inhibitions, your self-confidence issues all comes up, and that's what you got to really heal. So I would say focus on your own healing. That will set you up for success much faster for your mediumship development. Or you've got to do both together. So it's healing, meditation. Once you can do that, you can learn to be quiet. Then you just need to learn the process of engaging them. There's a few techniques that you can understand. There's kind of a process which will set you up for success. And then it's the journey, it's doing it over and over and just developing yourself.
And Lee, you have a mediumship 1 class. Is that appropriate for people who are just?
Yeah, so I've got an in-person class, which is a 2-day in August.
Oh, it's an in-person. Okay.
Yeah, actually it's in July. So that one, you can come in, you can learn the basic technique, but that's just an introductory class. It's not enough time. So those mediums would need to go and sit in circles somewhere. My favorite way of developing mediums, which I think has been so profound and so effective, has been my online mentoring. So I've got an 8-week beginner mentoring program. So that will take someone who doesn't know a thing, brand new. In 8 weeks, we'll get you to that place where you should be able to do a basic reading. And then for those who've got more experience, that would be the 12-week class. But in the 8 weeks, I think, what I love about it is I had more than enough time to work with people, because it's a group class on a Monday night online. So you feel like you're part of a group and you work in a group circle, and then it's individual. got access to the training platform, but then you've got to do it. This is key, right? This is the one thing people don't want to do, is to practice it. Got to go and do the reading, record it, I watch it, I give a review, and then one-on-one mentoring. So it's almost like a group class, but also a private class, all melded into one, that ends with a beautiful symphony of spirit communication at the end. So I love teaching that. I think that's one of the best classes I have. I put that training into place because I decided I wanted to teach a class the way I've always wanted to be taught. And I hope I deliver that to the students. I think I do, because I've seen excellence in mediumship like I've never seen before. Some of the mediums who study with me are far better than me. The mediums are phenomenal. It's so sad that people only really pay attention to the television or celebrity mediums, because the best mediumship is in your neighborhood. I've seen mediumship. No one I know at Arthur Findlay College can touch some of these people, because it's that great. We all have this potential, so.
You think we all have the potential to be great? And I say this like, you can teach me to play the piano, but I may not get past Silent Night. Do you know what I mean?
To be a great medium, it's like the presence of your spirit mind, what keeps you separate from that. If you work hard at it, you should be what is a great medium? Someone who can bring in all aspects of the spirit person, identifies, but also bring through their presence and their essence, right? The full personality, to allow the person to feel as if their mom or their grandmother is present in the room. That takes time to develop. And what will stop you from getting yourself to that is lack of practice, lack of self-confidence, and it's going to have something to do with your healing. If you've still got healing, stuff you need healed, it still is what's standing in your way to your development. That's the biggest problem that we have. Some people are just really, really connected in a strong way. So, for example, if someone is objectively clairaudient, they can simply repeat the information. It's so easy they don't need to even try, but there's very few people like that. So what is a great medium really, Scott? What would you consider great mediumship? I feel great mediumship is evidentiary.
Right.
And for you to be able to bring the spirit world to life for the sitter, where they feel that full presence and essence, that spirit is allowed to touch in on the sitter, that they feel that presence, that they feel the healing power of mediumship. And in my view, that's a great medium. You can be someone who will bring in like evidence, all visual, all these visuals. Oh, yes, that's right, that's right, that's right. But you can't bring their essence into your reading, their personality, the sense of them. It's not a good reading, even though you can wow someone with some specific facts. But if it's a cold reading, then no, there's no emotion attached. No.
Do you think that the sitter has any bearing on that? But let me explain to you what I mean. You get some people that come in, either they're skeptical and they're trying to trick you, or see if you, even if they're not trying to trick you, even if they're trying to see and they're just not gonna, there's this wall up. Or even someone in intense grief, I wonder sometimes if they're capable of it, if it's a recent death, you know what I mean? I wonder, some readings are so wonderful and you do capture that emotion, the feeling, the essence, like you say, of that person. And others, it's almost like they're standing over there. I can tell you they're there. I'll tell you what they're telling me, but it's not the same. Do you know what I mean?
Like there's a wall.
There's a wall, and I'm not sure who's got the wall. Sometimes I think it's the sitter has the wall.
Well, here's the thing, with spirit communication, we are not doing a psychic reading. So we are not reading the energy of the sitter. We are creating this link over here. So it's not like they're blocking us psychically, but everything is energetic. You bring your energy into the room. Now we're working with a high vibration. We're in that place, and you have a sitter whose energy is a little bit off. The doubting Thomases, they're going to question everything. The person who only wants to hear from one particular person. and no one else.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
Their energy is a lower vibration. Energy entrains to each other. So their lower vibration entrains to us. That automatically happens. Then what happens is our vibration gets a little bit lower. And then our vibration trains back to them, and theirs gets a little bit lower. So the energy definitely affects it. But also, what is the energy that the person brings into the room? You know, I speak about feedback. You can have a sitters going, no, you know, disinterested.
Right.
That's negative energy. You know, that's low kind of energy, you know, and I feel that does affect the reading and our connection because it drops everything. Right. You know, your words carry energy. The way you say things carry energy. So if someone's going to come in with that kind of attitude, they will definitely affect the energy. It's almost like they're pushing you away, right? When you try and link to their loved ones.
It's true. And I don't think they, and oftentimes they're not trying to, you know what I mean? They're just, so it's almost like tunnel vision. That's not my mother, let's say, as an example. Yeah. You're actually reading their aunt and you've got the essence of their aunt, but they can't see it because they're just so fixated.
I had someone complain about one of the students the other day. I watched the reading. He was getting stuff, and the sitter was like, I don't know. And then two other friends came through, and she's like, "Oh, why would they even come?" You know, it's like, So I was looking at this and was like, "Oh my God!"
The same thing.
15 minutes later, with all this disinterest, the medium said, "I'm sorry, I can't connect for you. Thank you so much." Bam. Next thing I see, she goes on to one of the social media pages, and this was waiting 40 years to hear from her father. Everything was spot on. Her friends came through that she's been dying to hear from. And suddenly he just decided to cancel the reading. And I was like, are you kidding me?
We on the same page here.
This is like two different readings, you know, and then I actually asked to speak with her, and I could feel the energy and I could understand why there was this struggle. But the thing is, that was affecting the reading, affecting the medium's connection. If you're getting all this spot on evidence, how about, yes, oh my God, yes, that's correct. No, that's not right. You know, in the way that you say it, you infuse your energy. I wish sitters were more aware of the energy, right? I feel mediumship's sacred, right? It's a sacred experience.
It is. It is. Yeah. I'll tell you an interesting story. And I've said this before, if I said it on the show. I was in Indiana the end of April, and I was doing a gallery with another medium. And she picked up on this man in the back of the room, and she said, "You're a skeptic." Kind of sat there all smug and smiled. And, you know, when I started reading and I picked up on this woman and I was giving the room the details about, you know, she's got her hair up in curlers. She'd never leave the house unless her hair was done. She just was so proud of who she was. And towards the end of her life, she would never take photos of herself. Interestingly enough, her lipstick was outside the lines, and she used to collect coat buttons. And you got them. You saved your coat, but you've got her box of coat. Okay, that's pretty specific, right?
Yeah.
And you could hear the crickets in the room. You could hear the crickets. After it was over, his wife, who was with him, said, excuse me, you had his grandmother, but he wasn't going to say anything. I said, who? And so he told me, and I said, well, why didn't you say something? Well, you know, I mean, I do have her box of coat buttons, and I do, you know, it was all right, but he wasn't going to say anything. So he says, well, does she have a message?
No.
Like, I don't know.
She's gone.
She's gone.
The train has left the station.
You know? I mean, good night, you know. But I mean, stuff like that happens too, is they sit there almost like bounded, do you know?
I don't understand it, honestly. It actually makes me angry, to be honest with you, because they'll let you drown there, you know, and you look like you're an idiot. And then, you know, afterwards they might want to come to you secretly. Oh, by the way, I understood that. It's like, really?
Excuse me, folks, everyone else who was still in the room.
I don't know why. You know, I've had weird responses, you know, where someone wouldn't take something and I thought I was going crazy. And I was very upset that night because I had a bad night. It affected my energy, and then I struggled during the demonstration. Afterwards, the bloke comes up to me and he says, "Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I could take everything." I said, "Well, why didn't you say so? You let me look like a fool." And he said, "Well, she only died 2 days ago, so I wasn't ready." It's like, what the hell? You've come to speak to dead people. She's dead.
Oh my God. It's so true. It's so true, you know. Oh my
We've got
God.
to keep our sense of humor, Scott.
We do. Lee, I know you're not going to believe this. We only have 4 minutes left to this show. It's
Oh, wow.
It's always the quickest. I want to give people an opportunity just to find out how they can reach you.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people that watch this. I had a reading last week because of someone that watched the show. So I would love for people to...
Wait. We have an audience?
We
Whoa.
do have... Both of my friends are on every week. One of them's my co-host. The
My
other...
daughter watched once for 5 minutes.
There you go. How can people get a hold of you, Lee, and your website and everything?
All right. So I've got 2 websites, LeeVanZylSpiritual.com. That's my personal website, and you can see all the classes on that website, but also the school website is MontClair Psychic School.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And honestly, and I'm saying this to be true because I've taken your class. I cannot recommend you enough. You have the most thorough program I've ever seen. I mean, you literally cover everything.
Yeah.
You truly do. You cover it all. And
I wanted to, yes.
It was great. When do you start up again? Is it in the fall?
Yeah, we're starting a beginner on September 11th. And then I think a week later, a week earlier, we're doing the 12-week advanced.
I always feel bad because you do ask for people to come on and sit, and it's usually during this show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I say, oh, I'd love to go and just be part of it, because we used to come in. I would love to do that, and I'm always here. So maybe we'll see what happens in the fall.
Well, I know I always remember that reading you did for me with that friend of mine who got murdered.
That was pretty intense.
That is emblazoned in my energy field. I will never forget that reading.
And I don't know that I don't know if I told you this, Julie, but it was like watching the scene play in front of me. And I don't know that I get that often, like that. It was like watching a movie and seeing this man get murdered. I mean, it was intense. And then we were at his house with his mother and his sister, and it was, oh my God.
But you see, we are all capable of having these shining moments of amazing mediumship, right? But that reading over there, that was like just something I'll always remember. Thank you for that one.
Well, thank you. And thanks for the opportunity to do it, because there is such a thing we call imposter syndrome. I don't know if you're aware of it.
I suffer from it. Because every day I suck,
We all do it. We all have these doubts. But then you say, but then how did I do that? Yeah. You know what I mean? How did I bring that person through? And it's amazing. It is amazing. And every class you take, every experience you have increases your confidence level.
Yes.
And gets you better and better. I mean, I remember when I first started, oh my God, I would be nervous. I'd be a nervous wreck before a read. Oh my God.
Yeah. I would throw up.
Yeah.
I would throw up.
Now I don't get as kind of nervous with it. It just kind of organically happens. And so, and you learn that you can trust them, that they continue.
That's the biggest.
Chanel is telling us that we have less than 30 seconds now.
All right.
We do.
We do.
I just want to say goodbye, everyone.
Have a great summer, everyone.
A wonderful summer. Thank you, Lee, for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Scott.
Great to meet you, Lee. Thank you so much.
Lee VanZyl, have a wonderful summer, and we'll see you all in the fall.
All right. Love you guys.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
You have been listening to The Paranormal Project with Scott Allen and Julie Finn. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. While you're there, leave us a rating and review so others can find out about the show. Stay haunted and go out there and explore the paranormal.